Hey y'all, Emu here, and welcome back to the Talk Emu podcast. I said in my last episode that today to cut today's episode is the anime one, the fighting game, anime games episode. Yep, that's the one today. This one's probably gonna be a little bit shorter because I got kind of less to say unless I come up with something, which I'm usually pretty good at just rambling about nonsense. But today I wanted to talk about anime video games, my thoughts on the genre, and how I think they could possibly improve. I don't really have any like real facts or articles pulled up, but I did do a little bit of research. But most of my sources, just my experience playing the games and consuming the medium over the years. So anime games have kind of always been around since at least since like the PlayStation 2 days, and a lot of them are mostly fighting games, and there've been a few RPGs. The genre has definitely changed a bit, evolved a bit over the years, and what I always found interesting is that um I've always been kind of curious about like why certain animes get more games than others, or why some are focused on more, and why old ones don't continue to get new games made. I'm assuming they just want to stay current and try to jump on the hype train of whatever anime is big at the time. Because back in the PlayStation 2 games, they had quite a few games for Full Metal Alchemist. They had some for Bleach, some for Yu Yu Hakusho. They even had one for Akira, I think. But I never got the privilege of playing any of those games. But I know the Full Metal Alchemist ones were like fighting games, and obviously Yu Yu Hakusho. But I've noticed in recent years, the only anime that's really gotten a constant game or constant games over the years has been Dragon Ball Z. And I always found that interesting because I know Dragon Ball Z is like one of the biggest animes ever, if not the biggest. Like if we're looking at like the whole like time frame of history, Dragon Ball Z has always been the most recognizable and most beloved anime by the masses. It's kind of one of those that everyone's heard of, even like non-anime fans have heard of or are into Dragon Ball Z. For whatever reason, it's interesting that that's the one that stuck. Uh, but and especially when there's so many other great fighting animes. But one thing I've also noticed is that a lot of the more recent anime fighting games just aren't good. Like it feels like they're pushed out just to make profit off of whatever anime is big at the time, and then they just kind of move on and forget about it. And I've kind of gotten to a point where I've stopped buying anime games because they're usually just bad. And another part of that is that most anime games are fighting games, which makes sense, but I'm not a big fan of fighting games in general. I've never really enjoyed like Mortal Kombat or Tekken or Soul Calibur, other than that one time that I beat the arcade Soul Calibur. Um, but I don't know. The only reason I've really ever played fighting games is because I like the characters in it. I like those characters in that universe, and I want to play as them, and that's why I get those games. Um, and it is the same with Injustice, which was all DC characters. But and Dragon Ball Z definitely has the most. I want to say there's over 100, maybe close to 200 Dragon Ball fighting games or games in general, and a lot of them are not good from what I've seen. There's some really janky looking ones, but there are some really successful ones like the Budokai Tenkaichi and Raging Blast games, which I believe Spike Chunsoft worked on both um, Budokai Tenkaichi and um, I I just said it and I've already forgotten what it's called. Raging Blast. I used to play Raging Blast 2 all the time. So my I'm gonna get off on a tangent here. My cousin, one of my cousins, was the leader of a church youth group. And what he would do was he would have these special nights where he would get like just the guys in the group together and we'd do an all-nighter. And it wasn't like a church thing at all. It was just the guys from that group. We'd get together, we'd go to one of the churches all night, 24 hours, and we would play like Raging Blast. Like that's pretty much all we played was Raging Blast 2. And there was a lot of screaming and crying, mostly from me, because you'd always get the kid that like the kid that owned the game, that knew all the combos, knew all the characters, had like in like the Dragon Ball games, you can get items for your character from like the campaign to make your character stronger. And there'd be one kid that had that, and all the other characters wouldn't have any of those. So he would just come through with all these buffs and just destroy us. And it was so infuriating. And you're trying to learn the controls, learn the combos, and he's just beating the crap out of you, not giving you any chance, no matter how many times you're screaming in his ear to stop. It's just like, or you get the one person that has to check their powers every 5 seconds and is constantly pausing the game to look at the combinations. It was great. It is good fun. Great fun. I had a blast. A raging blast. Literally, because I was always mad. Man, you want to see me get angry. You think I'm calm and monotone now. Man, put me in a fighting game against someone. You'll see a different side of me there. Uh, um, but yeah, I've definitely noticed that in recent years the games just aren't really made with much quality anymore. 'Cause I know I bought at a very discounted price, which is the only reason I bought it. I bought a My Hero Academia fighting game, and it was garbage. It was one of the worst things I've ever played. It was like very poorly put together from a game perspective, very poorly made. I forget the name of it. I think there's only two like My Hero games, but they made a battle royale game for My Hero, which was like kind of cool. It played all right, but it's like it was an interesting concept for sure. I hate battle royale games, but it was interesting to have like all the My Hero characters in as like a battle and be able to use like the powers in place of weapons. Um, it was definitely a neat concept. There's definitely been some odd choices for anime games, like the Dragon Ball The Breakers, which is literally Dead by Daylight, but Dragon Ball, which is a really weird. I would have never thought to do that. I would, and I don't know how well the game is performing these days, but it's very strange the idea of having Dead by Daylight set in the Dragon Ball world, which I guess is kind of funny when you think about like in like especially like the Android saga where if you are a civilian, you basically are playing Dead by Daylight because you got this giant monster like Cell stomping around drinking people and you're like desperately trying to get away. Like that angle of it, like that's kind of interesting, but I wouldn't necessarily want to play that. And it's not something I think of when I think of Dragon Ball Z. When I think of Dragon Ball Z, I think of big, ripped, shirtless guys shooting lasers out of their hands and beating the crap out of aliens and robots. I don't think of like weak civilians cowering in their houses as a monster like tears through the city. Now, I guess Dragon Ball has kind of eked its way into the horror direction from time to time, mainly with the Cell Saga. And you had like a Harudagarn, which was like a kaiju. Like uh it definitely interesting. And then it also feels like the only other anime that really gets a big emphasis on games is like Naruto, which is like I get it. It's another shonen battle anime. I'm famously not a big Naruto fan. I've never shied away from exclaiming that. I have shouted it from the rooftops how much I dislike Naruto. But the game was good. I know there's a lot of games. There's a few games, and one of them was really boring and stupid and had a lot of like pay to win stuff in it. But oh, what was it called? Was it um Sudden Storm or Shinobi Storm or something? The big one that everyone. I think it just got like remade with like Boruto characters, but um, I played that, and what was interesting about that game is that game had two modes to it. And the first mode was like, all the anime games where you basically just go through the story and just play through iconic fights and it like the cutscenes retell the whole anime. That's also if you want to get into One Piece and you don't have the time to watch a billion episodes, play one of the One Piece games and it'll explain the story for you. That's what I did before I did go back and watch it, but that's what kind of enticed me to finally watch it because once you like the characters and you like the world, it's easy to go into 1,000 episode anime. But when you don't know what it is, it's a lot more daunting. But but yeah, that Naruto game had like the story mode where you were going through the last arc of Shippuden, the war arc, which was really enjoyable. It was really cool. I will give it that. That arc I liked. Until the end when they got really weird and stupid and out of control. But then there was a second mode where it was like an RPG where you were running around different parts of you could go around Konoha, you could go around different villages, different areas in the world of Naruto and like interact with the characters and do jobs for them and do fights and you like go around and actually spend time with the characters because Naruto has some cool characters. It just doesn't focus on them. And Dragon Ball Z also kind of suffers for that from that, which is why I liked Super so much because Super really gave a lot of screen time for other characters. Um, but yeah, that part of that Naruto game was really cool, and I liked that. And that I'm kind of getting to my point of what I think makes for a good anime game. But I also wanted to bring up the JoJo games. Now, unfortunately, a lot of like fighting or a lot of anime games seem to be PlayStation exclusive, which, if you know me, I am an Xbox player. I have been since I was 4. I have only had Xboxes. I do own a PlayStation 2, and I had a PlayStation 1 when I was growing up, and I only had like 3 games for it. Uh, and then, but yeah, it's just, I already put so much money into buying an Xbox. I don't want to pay just as much or more to get a PlayStation as well. Although I have been very tempted. I have been very tempted to get a PlayStation in recent years because, like, I wanted to play the Silent Hill remake. I want to play Demon Souls. Like, uh, it's just I hate console exclusivity. I think they need to get rid of it. They need to just let everybody play all the games on any platform. I understand that like certain companies will commission games specifically for their system, but by doing that, you're kind of ensuring that only a limited amount of people will play it. Wouldn't you make more money if it was on all 4 platforms than if you just put it on one? Now, I know a lot of times the game exclusive games will also go on PC, which is kind of weird to me. Like I think it was one of the Fairy Tail games. It was on PlayStation, Switch, and PC. So all that means to me is that you just don't like Xbox, that you're just purposely not putting it on Xbox. I don't understand why, especially when so many people play Xbox. I just I don't understand it. I don't get the console wars. I've never understood all that. I don't know why they can't just make things for everyone. It's just I don't know, it's just silly and dumb. But what are you gonna do? But yeah, Fairy Tail had like an RPG, like a turn-based RPG. Um that seem kind of cool. There's also, of course, there's also the mobile games. A lot of animes have mobile games. Pretty much everyone does. And like they're not the most fun. And I feel like in the case of like the Fairy Tale game, they don't really get updated much. Or at least they don't get new characters. I played a Bleach one for a little while. And it was like, okay. It's kind of boring. And like the Dragon Ball one. Like I played Dragon Ball Legends for a little while, and I don't know, it just wasn't that cool to me. It wasn't that fun. But uh, but yeah, the JoJo games, they have a PlayStation exclusive one that is like I think it's called Eyes of Heaven or something, and it like combines all the different parts of JoJo's, which is really cool because you can have all the different characters interacting. And I would have liked to play that one. Instead, all we have is All Star Battle R or whatever it's called, and that was fun for like 5 minutes. I think a lot of the problem with some of these games is they don't update them enough. They don't add a constant string of characters, and I think that might have been part of the downfall with Jump Force, which I feel like Jump Force had a lot of things contributing to its downfall. Jump Force is like, it's crazy that I've seen games fail and die. I've never seen games eradicated from existence before. That's wild to me. Like, you can't get Jump Force anymore, it's gone. And like, you can't get the game on the marketplace, you can't get the DLCs. It has been like Thanos snapped from reality. And it's just crazy to me. Like, you're ensuring that no one will ever play it again unless they already own it, which is nuts. I don't know why they decided to do that. The game wasn't that bad. I mean, the story was kind of stupid, but it was cool to have all those characters together. You know, it was cool to have all these different colliding worlds. I think it'd be also cool if they had a game, like an anime game that did that, but it wasn't limited to just Jump Force characters, which I guess that would probably be like a licensing nightmare. But like if you could have like fairy tale characters in there too. And it's like it's also interesting that you feel like they would have put more characters into shows that were big at the time. Like they had like I'm pretty sure Jump owned Demon Slayer. And they didn't put any Demon Slayer characters in that game. And they only had one Black Clover character. I feel like they could have had more. But I don't know, they were starting to dump a lot of My Hero characters in there, but even that wasn't enough to save it. um, uh, I will say the RPG focus for me, I think, is probably the best route to go for anime games. I loved Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Absolutely loved it. It was really cool to get to be a part of that world and kind of live in that world, go to the different locations and talk to the different characters. They even added in some things that weren't like necessarily canon. They added some fan stuff in there, some fan like some extended universe characters. They incorporated characters that Toriyama like forgot about, like Launch and stuff. Like it was cool. Even though that game was just playing through the story again, they did like the downtime between the missions was really cool, and the post game stuff, and like using the Dragon Balls to fight the different enemies to get their badges, and a lot of the different challenges in there. It was really cool. I really liked all the extra stuff they put into Kakarot. I think Kakarot's probably my favorite anime game, just because it did so much more and had like an in-depth story. And that kind of brings me to what I think is probably becoming the best anime video game series, and that's the One Piece games. There's only a handful of One Piece games on Xbox, but the One Piece games like kind of do a little more. At least the most recent two RPG ones So for the ones on Xbox, for the One Piece games on Xbox, they have one. I forget what it's called. Something Blood. I can probably look it up while I talk about it. But it's a fighting game, traditional fighting game, made by Spike Chunsoft, which is the people that make the Dragon Ball games, which is wild. Spike Chunsoft makes so many different things. They have their hand in so many different types of games, and it's kind of wild the variety. Like they make all of the Steins Gate, Chaos Child, like um, visual novel games. They make, or at least publish. And they make the Dragon Ball fighting games. Then they make like Danganronpa and Zero Escape, which they need to bring back Zero Escape. I want another Zero Escape game. I'm never going to stop talking about how much I want another Zero Escape game. I know the third game didn't do too well, but they had a good formula there. They keep remaking new games that feel like Danganronpa. I want more games that feel like Zero Escape. It doesn't have to be Zero Escape. I just want more escape room games. They're fun, and they're focusing more on the like Danganronpa angle. And it's like I bought the new one. I forget what it was called. It was like a detective game, and it's just like I've done this before. Like it just gets kind of. And Danganronpa was so good, which I don't know if that counts as an anime game because that game existed before the anime. But I mean, I guess it counts. I loved the Danganronpa games. I loved how they combined like kind of RPG elements and the detective stuff. And those games always have so much content in them because there's stuff you can do like out after the game. Like Danganronpa 3 had like a whole like dungeon crawler like RPG tied to it. It was it was really cool. But yeah, it had that One Piece fighting game, um, Burning Blood. That was the name of the game. And it was only the like you could play through like the Marineford arc, and it was just like a basic fighting game. And then they like added in, I think the Gold movie had come out around that time, so they did like a big DLC with Gold movie characters, which the Gold movie was fantastic. But, um, and then they have One Piece has Pirate Warrior 4, which is kind of it play from what I've been told, it plays very similarly to Dynasty Warriors. I love that game. That's a game that I will just throw on if I am bored and don't have nothing to do and don't really feel like getting invested in something. I'll just jump into a mission of that and just blast through enemies. It's very like kind of hack and slashy. You can just tear through a bunch of enemies, and it's a lot of fun. And that game was being updated pretty consistently. Like the last DLC came out like a few months ago, and they added some like extra bonus modes to it. It was really fun. I 100%ed that game actually, completely 100%ed it. Um, but then they have One Piece's two RPG games, which are phenomenal. One of them kind of gets hated on for reasons I don't understand, and that's World Seeker. I really liked World Seeker. It was an open world RPG for One Piece. And they had a really cool mechanic where they utilized Luffy's stretch abilities. So you could swing around on buildings and trees like Spider-Man. And it allowed you to like navigate the world in a really fun way. And a lot of people didn't seem to enjoy that game or enjoy the combat. I really liked it. It had its own original story, original characters. It still brought in a lot of fun characters from the main continuity. And there was also DLCs for other characters, which I want. Probably my favorite thing for that game is in the DLC where you play as Zoro, you don't have a radar or a map, which is the greatest thing. And in order to be able to use the map while playing as Zoro, it is his highest skill on his skill tree. It is like his final skill tree ability. It is so funny that that shows that the developers like cared, that they at least pay attention to little stuff like that. I really enjoyed that game. That was really fun. And then Odyssey was clever because it kind of did do the whole play through the story again, but it did it in a way that was really original, and it didn't just feel like you were slogging through the story again. And it changed some things, and it had a lot of original moments and set pieces in it too. Um, it was a really good balance of retreading and originality. And the idea of having to like get your powers back, and it had kind of like dungeon exploration elements and a lot of maneuvering around the world and using different, each character had like different abilities that could help you navigate the world that you'd have to switch to. So like Chopper could get into small areas, Luffy could like reach things from far away and stuff like that. And Frankie could build platforms. Now there was a lot of hand holding in the beginning of that game, which really infuriated me. Like you have to get through a big portion of the game before you can kind of freely roam around. Because I always really like exploring in like RPG games, but it was a fun game, and it was written by Oda, which I think is a big thing in like anytime you do something that is about an anime, whether it's a video game or a live action series or movie, you having the original author involved can like make or break it. Because look at the One Piece live action, and it's really cool that uh, Oda is so willing to be a part of those projects, and it makes me wonder why um, other mangakas don't get involved, or why. I'm sure it probably was but yeah, the studios um in like the studios that make these things, they don't seem to always want to reach out to the creators or use the source material, which those projects always fail. And it's always funny to me that it's like you'd think they would realize by now that their way doesn't really work. But and I think that affects the games as well. And there's just been so many games that come out lately that just feel like cash grabs. I didn't play the One Punch Man game or the Jujutsu Kaisen game, but I haven't necessarily heard good things about them either. Like when Kakarot came out, it was everywhere. Like that was a really big deal when that came out, and it was a fantastic game. Uh, I would love to see more like kind of RPG style games, like the One Piece games, like Kakarot. And it sounds like that one JoJo game kind of did that, but again, it's an exclusive, so I wouldn't really know. And I don't know how well that Fairy Tail RPG did. I know that was on more recent consoles, and I don't really know how free the RPG experience was because that was a fun thing um with the Kakarot and with the even with the that Naruto game is like just being able to interact with the characters and experience the world and feel like you're a part of the world and have those kind of like slice of life moments. And even though like the One Piece game was definitely more on track, it didn't have a lot of downtime in it, but you did have moments where you would stop at your camp and you could talk to the characters. And that was one thing I really loved about the game Tales of Arise. Because Tales of Arise is not an anime game, but it very much is at the same time. It's not based on an anime, it's not about an anime, it's its own original game, but it feels like you're playing an anime. It has a lot of downtime moments where you can talk to your characters at camp or like even when you're traveling through the world, there'll be little skits that pop up between the characters, and it even had its own anime intros. Like the game is kind of split into two arcs, and the two arcs each had their own like introduction, like its own anime intro with a song and everything. It was just really cool. I love that game. I hope they make another one soon. I know the Tales series has existed for a very long time, and it's like just now people are starting to kind of know about it. It felt so like seems like it was so underground before. Granted, I wasn't a big RPG fan for most of my life. I only kind of just recently got into RPGs in the last like 5 years, maybe 6 years. But Um, yeah, it's like Final Fantasy and Tales are a little similar, I think, in the fact that they're this long series of RPGs, but each game is kind of its own thing. They're all kind of isolated and kind of do their own thing, but they are part of the same like kind of universe or whatever. And Tales of Arise was phenomenal. And even Final Fantasy 16's combat looks very reminiscent of Arise's combat. Um, I would really like to play Final Fantasy 16 someday. They said it's going to be out for console at some point, or not console, Xbox, the only console, obviously. But I don't know. I've never been a fan of the Final Fantasy games, but it would be cool to play that one because it actually looks really good. Supposedly it's supposed to release on Xbox in the first half of this year, so they have until June. We'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, it's also interesting. Like there are a lot of modern animes that are starting to get games now, like Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero, One Punch. Um, I think Sword Art had a game. I would like to see another Fairy Tail game. I'd like to see a Black Clover game. I think that'd be cool. But I would really like to see more games do original things, create original villains, original stories like the One Piece games do. Because that's one complaint I always hear with like anime games now is that they just keep redoing the story of the show, especially with the Dragon Ball games. So like between Xenoverse and Kakarot and even Fighters to a small extent. Fighters was more original, but it was your typical like 2D side scroller fighting game like Mortal Kombat. But I would like to see more originality in the fighting games. And I'd like to see some other shows maybe get a comeback with some new games. Maybe another Full Metal game or something like that. I could even see, like, as much as I'm not a fan of it, I could see a Trigun RPG working. Like going through the different towns, doing side quests for people. I could see stuff. I could see that being good. I don't know if there ever was a Trigun game, or like Cowboy Bebop. Could you imagine either Cowboy Bebop or Outlaw Star, like a like Mass Effect or Destiny-esque kind of game where you're going from different planets, or like Warframe where you're going through different planets and you can do different jobs, like doing like a Warframe kind of setup where you have like the explore like the world exploration like missions, but then you actually have the full open world areas with like side quests and stuff. I could see something like that being cool with like Cowboy Bebop or um Outlaw Star, whereas like you could have mech missions or like spaceship missions, and then you have like on foot, like you could have like fighting or shooting missions. And because like for Cowboy Bebop, you could set it up as like taking jobs on different planets, going through different like mercenary tasks. Some might require spaceships, some might require like melee combat. Like you could blend different styles together, and I think that would be kind of really cool. Kind of how like was it Near Automata had like mech missions and like your combat missions, and then like some platforming. Like you, their games have blended styles and genres before, and you could do that with an anime game, and I think it'd be really cool, especially when the anime itself already kind of has that setup in its formula. In like maybe like a Code Geass game where like a mecha game, kind of like an Armor Core game, but in the Code Geass world. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the Attack on Titan game. That was a masterpiece. The Attack on Titan 2 game. That again was kind of just playing back through the story, but you are your own original character and you spend a lot of time at base or at camp, and you get to talk to all the different side characters, and you have to do missions for them, or you can like level up your friendship with them. They had a bunch of side quests you could do, and they had the main story. But what was also kind of cool is, the main story was still happening. So when you got to a certain point, characters would die, because if you know Attack on Titan, characters die like every 5 seconds. So you would have to, like, certain characters you would have to level up with them, like quickly, or else they would die and you would lose whatever perk you get from them. Or there were characters that would ship off to different corps, like Annie and Daz went to left the scout didn't go to the scouting regiment. Um, it'd be that was just a really fun game, and the combat was so much fun using the ODM gear and targeting the different parts of the Titans and having to like actually having to leave the battle and restock on gas and blades to go back out and having to like protect different areas of the map and zip around. That game was such a blast. It was one of my favorite games. And that's another thing is so many games have these unique like kind of or so many of these animes have unique like kind of systems built into them that the games don't really ever utilize. And I think it would be really cool to have something like that. I would love to see like another kind of an RPG game from like JoJo's that really leans into the different like the all the different usages of powers and how you can change mobility with the different characters. I think that'd be cool. But yeah, I think that pretty much about covers it. I don't really have much else to talk about. I just kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on anime games and what I think about the genre. I think there's still a lot of potential in the genre, but I think it's kind of handled poorly. I definitely think going in the more RPG direction for these games and having more original plots is better. And having more connections between the characters and also utilizing the power systems in a more creative and original way. It was another thing with the World Seeker game for One Piece is like the other characters couldn't maneuver like Luffy and had to maneuver in different ways and had like all they had to have their own like kind of mechanics tailored to their powers. Um they didn't try to just like make a tacky reskin of Luffy's abilities with the other characters like some games try to do in the past. But that's just kind of my 2 cents on the matter. Just a topic that I think about a lot, and I would definitely like to see more of in the future. Um, yeah, that's been my spiel on anime games. Uh, I see you next time on whatever the next episode of this is, whatever I figure out that I want to talk about. I just thought not only is this really not only is this topic catering to video games, but also anime as well. And I will say, although I'm my channel is still very young and I don't get crazy views, I that JoJo tier list I made got a lot of views in like within hours compared to my other videos. So I might start leaning a little more into anime, but I'm still gonna try to keep a focus on video games, kind of maybe switch between the two um periodically because I do want to explore other things. I would also like to talk about movies, TV, and music at some point, but I wanted to really kind of build my foundation in video games, and anime just happens to tie into video games really well. It also ties into music pretty well, so I kind of got something to talk about there too. But um, but yeah, so I've been the Snoopy Emu. Uh, thank you for listening to yet another one of my spiels where I just nonsensically ramble in my storage closet about things and make references to things that only I understand. We have fun here, or I have fun here at least. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.